Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Barber. This is my husband, Josh. We will be doing an interview today for my Foundations of Oral Communications class. Hi, Josh.
Hello.
Let's start out with what do you do for a living?
I'm a fire controlman, third class. Fire controlmen are responsible for operating and maintaining the weapon systems aboard ships. Specifically, I'm a Tomahawk tech, so I operate and maintain the Tomahawk cruise missile weapon system on board a destroyer.
Now, you're in the Navy. What made you decide to join the Navy?
The Navy was kind of my first choice coming out of high school. Um, I had gotten interested in it after a field trip with my Boy Scout troop to a museum ship. And in 2001, I was a senior in high school, and that was when 9/11 happened. And the country really pulled together in 9/11, after 9/11, and I really was kind of instilled with this sense of patriotism. I wanted to do my part, and unfortunately, I didn't do that at the time. I was persuaded to go into a different career, and I did that for 10 years. But the whole time I was in that career, I felt really kind of jilted that I didn't do what I wanted to do. I didn't do my part, and I kind of it made me feel really inadequate as an American. So after 10 years, I made the decision to go back to my plan A, which was to join the service.
What made you choose the Navy?
The Navy is steeped in a rich history of tradition, which really appealed to me. It's a very interesting idea that people, regular Americans, can operate some of the largest machines on the planet, um, and the notion that the Navy is one of the more technologically advanced branches, us in the Air Force, really appealed to me, where I'd be able to learn a skill as well.
How's your life changed since you joined the Navy?
Pretty drastically, I think. Certainly presented with a lot more opportunities now than I was as a civilian. Certainly, the educational opportunities um, are always a popular option for people looking to join. Not only with the college that I'm attending now, which is being funded by the Department of Defense, but also the education that I received from my electronics um, education through A school and C school. To be able to maintain the weapon systems, you have to have a pretty thorough knowledge of how electricity and electronics work together. So that was certainly not something that I would have received in my career before the Navy. Um, Also, all the other opportunities, being able to travel the world and see how different parts or different people around the planet, other than here in the States, how they live in different cultures, is not certainly something I would have done if I had stayed in my civilian career.
Was the transition from civilian life to military life difficult?
Not necessarily. I came into the Navy a little older than most of my counterparts. A lot of the people who join right out of high school, so you're talking anywhere between the ages of 18 and very early 20s. I was sort of the anomaly joining at my early 30s. So that gave me a lot of time to certainly become more mature. I wasn't as reticent to take on responsibilities and leadership positions as some younger people are, and certainly being more well traveled than others. This wasn't a huge stretch for me to be away from home for extended periods of time. For a lot of people, boot camp was their first time being out of the home for more than a few weeks. Um, that in itself, and then being away from A school, I was able to cope with that a lot better than I'd say most people were.
Now, going back to what you were talking about, why don't you tell us a little bit about your boot camp experience? What was that like?
Well, the object of boot camp is to break you out of the habits that you develop as a civilian. You learn to follow minute orders. So, in our line of work, details really matter. So you learn to pay attention to things that, out in the civilian world, you probably would just let fly. There, you learn that even small things can have huge consequences. Um, and they also like to break people out of that habit of not wanting to move until being told to. And I think a lot of people have this perception about the military that comes from media, movies, television shows, that we're all robots who just stand around and we wait for orders and we don't move until being told to do so, and that's not correct. And it's almost the opposite of what the Department of Defense wants. Historically, militaries have been brought to their knees because if you destroy the leadership, the army refuses to move. Um, that happened during World War II and Nazi Germany, and there have been other historical cases that show, if you destroy the leadership, then you can essentially cut the head off the snake. The Department of Defense and the American military doesn't want a military like that. We want a military that can be mobile. We want a military that can be adaptable. We want a military that can um, form to its surroundings. So if part of the leadership fails, somebody else will step into that leadership role to fill that void, and it doesn't just come to a grinding halt.
And wrapping this up a bit, what has been the best part of your Navy career so far?
Certainly, the educational opportunities that I mentioned earlier have been a really great asset to me. I had an associate's degree coming into the Navy, and that cost me a pretty good chunk of change just for that little bit of education. Currently, I'm receiving the tuition assistance benefit, which is paying for the remainder of my bachelor's degree, and none of that is coming out of pocket. So, being able to get my higher education without having to pay large sums of money for it is a really great opportunity. And also, uh, the idea of advancement is a really great concept to me. I spent 10 years in a career field where I not only did a good job, I did a great job. I have several awards that shows that I excelled in my former career. Now, even with that, I was still performing the same job at the end of 10 years that I was at the beginning of 10 years. I hadn't advanced at all. With the military, if you come in, you put in an honest day's work, you go above and beyond the call of duty, you prove that you want to be there, that you want to be part of the team, that you want to contribute. Over time, people are going to notice that, and they will advance you and give you more responsibilities and better benefits.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.